welcome to my YouTube channel, Love for Intuitive Astrology. So my name is Michelle and I'm an intuitive astrologer. I combine my knowledge of astrology with my intuition, and this will be reflected in this video. So today I will talk about the upcoming transit of Saturn moving in the sign of Aries, and that will happen on the 25th of May 2025. And first we're going to have this direct up until the 12th of July. Then it will station retrograde and it will go back in the sign of Pisces to see, have you learned all the lessons of Saturn in Pisces? You can look back my video of Saturn in Pisces. It will be there up until the 13th of February 2026, because then Saturn will stay in the sign of Aries up until the 13th of April 2028. Okay, and let's dive into what does it mean to have Saturn as a transit in the sign of Aries, and then we're going to dive into each and every single house. Okay, I'm going to explain what does it mean to have Saturn in a certain house. So you can check your own chart. It's pretty fun. There are a lot of websites where you can check your own birth chart and see in which house your transiting Saturn falls. Okay. So let's look at the meaning, because in astrology we say that Saturn in Aries is at its detriment. And this is nothing really to worry about. Like, I believe that the toughest aspects or more difficult aspects are bringing the most growth and the most wisdom. Okay, I've seen people with difficult charts and they become very strong, very humble, and they bring in so much wisdom, and it also can sometimes even lead to more success. So it's nothing to be afraid of. I actually think this is a wonderful challenge. So let's look at the sign of Aries. It rules the first house, right? And Aries is the first sign of all the houses. So this is where you're going to discover, you're going to explore. And that's why Aries is very often related to impulsive actions, but also taking the lead and taking initiative. This is the where you explore first, and then the rest is coming to explore the same as Aries or as the first sign or the first house. This is where you also learn how to identify with yourself and what makes you authentic. This is the house of leadership, right? How are you going to lead the rest? Because you're willing to take the risk. And I'm not talking about the sun sign Aries. This is the energy of Aries. Okay, so we all have Aries somewhere in our chart, and it's a really action-oriented sign, right? It's a fire sign. It's really enthusiastic and it wants to take action and explore new terrains. So yeah, that's why it's so related to leadership. Now we have Saturn, and Saturn, rules Capricorn. This is a very stable energy. Saturn is, either gonna restrict, but it can also make you work hard, have discipline, and sometimes we also call it the planet of karma. So unfinished business, unfinished lessons that are making you stronger and helping you grow in life. So when we have this in the sign of Aries, it's all about really taking responsibility. So taking responsibility for your actions. And Aries wants to go quick, right? It wants to explore, it wants to do stuff. And Saturn says, okay, but you cannot be impulsive. You have to have a plan. You have to take a step back and be patient. So that's why these two are not mixing very well. But it all depends how you deal with this energy, because when you're watching this, you learn about astrology and you can actually work with the energies. So learn how to take action, but also have a plan and have patience. At the same time, this is about your identity. So this is about taking off the layers to explore your true identity. Not only do we have Saturn, we also have Neptune and Chiron in Aries, especially in the first year. There's going to be a massive influence and emphasis on on Aries, right? We have Saturn in conjunction with Neptune as well. So there can be a lot of self-discovery through meditation or through the spiritual path, through artistic creativity. And if you are an artist or you work with creativity and you are an entrepreneur, this is really a time where you can shine, okay? This is where you can bring forward your authenticity. But, you know, Saturn can also make it really uncomfortable for you. So if you're running away from certain responsibilities or you're not ready to face something, it can make it quite tough because the runaway energy will be restricted by Saturn. It's going to hold you back and say like, listen, I'm going to get you stuck until you really learn your lesson, okay? Until you really learn what it is that I want to teach you in a way. And I can tell you that like in Vedic astrology, I'm a Western astrologer, but I also study a lot about Vedic astrology, and I just moved from my Jupiter time in 2023 to my Saturn. They say Saturn Mahadasha, which is a time of hard work, discipline, all these kind of things. But actually it got me stuck. Like I worked less and, you know, things weren't moving as fast as before. And then I realized that, you know, I was feeling very tired all the time. And it turned out that my diet wasn't in alignment with what the work I'm doing. And, you know, I wasn't getting as much energy as before. So it's teaching you something. When you're stuck with Saturn, it's literally teaching you something that you need to learn. So it's not, some people say, oh, it's a curse or it's something bad. No, actually, it helps you remove the things that maybe you didn't see before, like an illness or something that maybe usually because you're feeling good or you don't notice anything that you might overlook. But now it's like holding you back and say like, wait a minute, look at your identity, look at who you are. Are you really following your authentic path? So it's really shredding layers off. So it can, in that way, restrict you, but it's only for you to look within and to really see like, what do I need to change? And then Saturn will let you go again and do your things, right? It wants you to be disciplined. So if you're a leader or you want to start a business, like this is a really good time for entrepreneurs, okay? If you're an entrepreneur and you can match those energies of being energetic, enthusiastic, but also have a plan, this is gonna be a pretty good time for you, okay? Yeah, it's about taking responsibility, but also not looking for external validation. So this is really forming your identity no matter what other people are thinking. So they might be thinking, oh, that's strange that he or she is going this way. And, you know, it's not really something that I thought would be very obvious for that person. But this is not the time to listen to what other people have to say. This is about following your own path, your own unique path that feels most authentic to you, okay? Yeah, let's go to all the houses, okay? So if you are Aries Ascendant, most likely you have Aries in the first house. But, you know, it depends on your degree because it can still be in your 12th house. So I think it's just easier for me to explain the houses so you can check it yourself, because I know a lot of you already looked in your birth chart and have high curiosity for astrology. So Saturn in the first house, well, the introduction, extra charged, right? This is about you learning how to take responsibility. So you might get more work or more, in general, just more responsibilities. And the more you walk away from them, the heavier they become. The more you accept them, the easier it will be. And actually, you will see people will start to really respect you, because people with Saturn in the first house in general, when they have it in their natal chart, they have this air of respect, because once you work with the energy, people can feel your authority and your leadership. So you're diving into your identity. And if, for example, you've been bullied when you were younger, or people used to make fun of something, now is the time to honor that side of yourself, because not always people, you know, they can call you all sorts of names, but this is sometimes their own projection. Sometimes it's jealousy, sometimes it's subconscious, it's just what they learned from their home base. So sometimes it doesn't even have anything to do with you. And very much time later on, when you meet these people, they don't even remember saying these things to you. So from that perspective, the person you have to live with and you have to be happy with is yourself. So you're gonna have to make your own home, your body comfortable for yourself. So leadership, responsibility, identity, searching for who am I, and not like who you want the world to, how do you want the world to perceive you, but from inside out, because Saturn wants to take off all the layers. So if there is a mask, or you're pretending to like something and you don't, then, you know, Saturn is triggering you to stand more in your own truth. And Saturn is also going to make you more polite about it, right? Like it's dimming down the impulsiveness of Aries. So if you can match those two energies, you can get a lot of things done. Especially if you're an entrepreneur, or you're someone like an executive or a manager, or, you know, even if you manage a family, it doesn't matter, because there are a lot of jobs that is managing. So yeah, you can get a lot of respect. So don't run away from your responsibilities. I think that's number one, that is really important, and start living according to your own authentic self. And if you have to take a risk, or you want to take a risk, do some good research. Saturn loves that. And have good discipline in everything that you're doing. Okay, not overworking. Hard working is not overworking, it's working the right amount of time and the discipline to get stuff done. Okay, so in that sense, it's a beautiful energy. That would be for Saturn, people who have Saturn transiting their first house. Let's move on to Saturn transiting the second house. Okay, so second house transit of Saturn is mostly related to money and also your self-worth. So feelings that might be coming up during this time, it's like, you know, I'm giving so much, I'm working so hard, but I'm getting so little in return. And you're gonna shape your self-worth. But also Saturn is testing you. Are you willing to work hard to take the next step, to earn more? So through hard work, you can definitely earn more money, okay? And also because Aries is so related to identity, like, how do you identify? Are you really closely identified with your money? So if you would lose your money, does that mean that you lose yourself as well, right? So it's important to, even though things might be wobbly or changing, that the way you feel about yourself and your worthiness and your skills and your talents, that you're still know that they are valuable. And even though maybe you're earning less than you want to, you have a vision that someday you will be rewarded for what you're doing, okay? So through hard work, you can definitely earn more. And also don't give up, okay? Don't give up and go too much into pessimism, because people might overlook you, or you feel like, you know, you're not really valued for all the hard work that you're doing. But you have to remember there is, you know, something more that sees that definitely you are doing all the hard work. So it's not overlooked, and certainly not by Saturn. It really appreciates your hard work and it will reward you by the end. That's why it's an old aging planet, right? Like people in reality who have Saturn somewhere after 35, this planet gets activated. So all the work you've done will come back to you. So remember, you know, with the transit, it's not exactly like that age, but it does mean that maybe it doesn't give rewards right away, but it gives it later, after they've seen that you're committed and that you're fully into a project, okay? It's a good time not to overspend. This is not a time to spend too much money, to make major investments. If you make some type of purchase, make sure to do a lot of research. Is this something you really need? Because Saturn likes minimalism. So if you want to give some stuff away as well that maybe doesn't belong with your identity anymore, this is a really good thing. So minimalism, don't buy things that you don't need. This is not a planet that likes, you know, like big stuff, flamboyant things. You can buy big projects or invest in something, purchasing something, but it needs to have some kind of long-term effect. If it's short-term pleasure, it's not liked by Saturn, okay? So that would be Saturn in the second house. Let's move on to Saturn in the third house. So third house has to do with your communication. And generally speaking, when Saturn is going over your third house, you're becoming a little bit more reserved. So this is a time where maybe you're speaking less, but your words contain more wisdom. So you might speak with few words, but people really are impressed with what you're saying. It makes you a bit more shy. And that's because you think that what you say might be stupid or it's not right. But these pessimistic thoughts about your communication or your speech are actually there for you to refine it. So to have better communication skills, double check your emails. Maybe you have to rewrite something, restudy something, okay? It doesn't give anything like right away. Sometimes you have to do a second try, or a trial. If you're studying, you could be doing a re-exam and then get like a really good grade. Because if you worked hard for that and the commitment is there, you will definitely be rewarded. Because this planet doesn't deny anything. It's just testing you, like how committed are you? This also is to do with your siblings. So there might be some less communication with siblings, a little bit colder, more distant than usual. And if there is anything that needs to be resolved between you and a sibling or you and your siblings, that might be coming up during that time as well. So it can bring complete distance or some lessons that need to be taught between the two of you. Same with the surroundings, like your near surroundings or your neighbors. Maybe you're not very close with them, or some trouble could be coming up that needs to be resolved, okay? So that would be Saturn in the third house. Let's move on to Saturn in the fourth house. So when you have Saturn in the fourth house in Aries, it has to do with how you formed your identity when, by your family. And any patterns that really maybe damaged your identity, or things that family members have said that impacted you, might be coming back now for you to ultimately heal and to find a new identity that maybe is, makes you part of the family or separate from the family. Whatever it is, you're going to see this is my place. This is how I see myself. And this is how I want to relate to my family. It could be that you have to take care of your parents during this time. Or have to take care of a family member, but especially fourth house is your roots. So it's like your grandparents or your mother, your father, that you have to take care of this person and see the commitment and responsibility. And through that, you will see things from a different perspective. Maybe you will have conversations that make you see your childhood different. It's also time to re-stabilize yourself, to root yourself. So if you feel instability or you have a blocked root chakra, safety first. Safety first. So you have to feel safe in your own body. If you don't feel safe, you might feel a bit wobbly and unstable. And this will be brought up by Saturn. So you have to find ways to ground yourself and to really respect where you're living, respect your house. So there could be some trouble with landlords or with the houses or moving. So you really start to respect, like, okay, I have a roof over my head. Like the basics will come back to you. Like, whoa. Sometimes Saturn can take things away and you start to really appreciate, like when you have it, you don't really realize it until it's gone. And not saying it won't come back, right? It's just a small lesson how to be grateful and how to work through some obstacles. So ultimately you become stronger, your foundation is stronger. So you want something long-term, like a long-term home, and you're gonna work towards that. So if you're moving, it's not something that is done quickly. This would be something that needs a lot of work, and then you're gonna have a long-term house or long-term project if you're into real estate. But this is not something done in a second. It needs more strategy and more time. Okay, so that would be Saturn in the 4th house. Then we have Saturn in the 5th house. So the 5th house has to do with self-expression. So when Saturn here is in Aries in the 5th house, so in general, this is a very enthusiastic, maybe sometimes impulsive and energized self-expression, okay? So maybe sometimes you're expressing a bit less than before. You might have like a writer's block or creativity block coming up. And this goes back into your childhood, because 5th house is not just children, having children, but it's also your inner child. So healing this inner child is going to help you come back to your creativity. So if there are any blocks or anything that's preventing you from really getting to express yourself in a natural way, you have to go back, see what made you happy when you were younger, right? Are you doing the right stuff? Maybe you have to change a hobby. It could be even be that you're gonna make a hobby your work. So that's gonna, it's not gonna be just fun anymore. It's also gonna be more, how do you say that? Long-term project of working towards launching that business according to your hobbies, your skills. Maybe you need to revise some of your skills, optimize them, and practice them, okay, before you can fully express that in the outside world, like the 11th house. So this is more about going inward. And you know, if you're gonna have children around this time, it doesn't say that it's not gonna happen. Saturn makes it slower, so you might get pregnant or expect a child that, you know, the fertility is gonna be a bit slower. There could be some more obstacles. It might be hard work at the beginning, but yeah, you're creating something long term, so it's definitely worth it. Yeah, there might be some restriction in relationship with your children, or less communication. If they're a bit older, you could be like, you know, talking to them a bit less. Maybe they're doing their own things and you're like, you know, I'm just I wish I would speak to them a bit more. So there's a bit more distance. But overall, you're gonna heal your inner child. So that would be the best way to go. And your children are gonna be your teachers. And they're gonna show you where you still need some healing. Because a lot of moms and dads, when they have a child, they really are confronted with their own childhood. So yeah, this could be happening during that time. Yeah, creative expression, it's about practicing. It's not just only about having fun, but also getting better at it, and maybe have a few tries before your, for example, painting will be perfect. Okay, so that would be Saturn in, oh yeah, and before I continue, I also want to mention 5th house can be related to like gambling, or you know, like, yeah, investing money in gambling or betting and these kind of things. With Saturn there, it's not the best. It doesn't bring the best opportunities. I would say that Jupiter in the 5th house would do that. So be very careful if you're into those things. You know, in general, I think that if you do those kind of things, you have to be very, very, very careful, right? Like, because it can easily hook you into betting more. And this Saturn wants you to stop doing those things, because it's better to earn it in a natural way. So be careful with that. Let's move to Saturn in Aries in the 6th house. So 6th house has to do with your health. So obviously when Saturn is going into the 6th house, it's going to bring up maybe some issues. And Saturn doesn't create the issues, okay? Let's be very clear with that. It brings up the issues that are already there. And sometimes we don't notice until Saturn is going to point it out. If you look at my introduction, when I went into my Saturn period, I noticed that there were some things I needed to change about my diet, which were really important. So that's going to be for you as well with Saturn in the 6th house. So diet, sports, and Saturn doesn't like extreme sports. It likes slow, steady muscle training or techniques, or if you're dancing, learning the techniques slowly. If you're gonna do yoga, you're gonna learn it slowly, because if you're gonna be in this Aries energy and you're gonna be impulsive, like Saturn is gonna bring you back, not too quick, not too fast, slowly, with and long term. There's something that's on the long term sustainable, because very often when we see like athletes that are doing too much, they get like illness, or suddenly their heart is like, this is too much, and they didn't really notice it. So Saturn is like, hey, you are you are mortal, so you have to take care of this body, this vessel, the right way. Day-to-day routines, so making a good plan with work. This is also work related, so there could be a lot of work coming in for you, like more responsibilities, and it's not always necessarily that you're gonna get paid for those responsibilities, but you might get more status, and ultimately after some time and they see your commitment, you might be getting a more authority related job, or get more responsibilities and an equal pay with that. Same with colleagues. It might be a little bit more frustrating, more difficult, like more cold, like not super friendly with each other. So it could restrict your relationships with them. But the best way to deal with it is to work in a professional way and not too much in a social way, okay? Have a bit of fun, but not too close. That's not what Saturn kind of wants. Also 6th houses do with your pets. Don't forget your little cuties. They might actually become, you might get an animal, but there could be some troubles with them. They need to go to the vet, or they might not be feeling so well. So double check them as well. Don't lose your eyes on those little ones. But it will be a long-term commitment, like Saturn is saying. So you might be getting a dog or a cat, but they need to be healed from something, and then you have them on the long term, okay? So it's a small obstacle that is really, telling you, like, are you really committed to this animal? That's so important, because people take animals and they're so cute when they're little, but when they grow, they don't think they're cute anymore, and they just, they push them away. They leave them somewhere, bring them to the sanctuary. I think it's something that you really have to think about, and it's not something to make an impulsive decision about. So this is why Saturn is very good in the 6th house. It makes you think about the consequences and the long-term impact. Like if you have an animal, you have to treat them like a child, right? Because they're going to stay with you for a long time. Unless you have a fish. Tiny fish that stay with you for maybe a year. So, or get a hamster that doesn't age that much, that would be Saturn in the 6th house. Let's move on to Saturn in the 7th house. So 7th house is related to relationships, okay? And I forgot to bring up the relationships in the 5th house. Yeah, it's okay. So 7th house, obviously romantic relationships. People are very scared of Saturn because they think like, when Saturn's in the 7th house, it's impossible to meet someone. Actually, that's not true. It's just that when you meet someone, it's going to be more serious. It's going to be long term. Yeah, and you're most likely attracted to people who are more mature. So you don't want this like childish relationships. You want all or nothing. This is like, I'm all in. I want this high commitment. And if it's not this high commitment, it's going to be nothing. Okay. So yeah, then we have business partnerships that might be a little bit more difficult. Okay, I don't recommend going into a business partnership around this time unless you have a really good strategy. Especially if you're in Saturn return, for example, this is not the best time for relationships and business partnerships because you have a double Saturn, right? If you have a natal Saturn in Aries in the 7th house. But it does teach you a lot. It teaches you maturity and it teaches you what type of partner you want. So Saturn, even if you are already in a relationship, it will awaken certain aspects about your partner that you like or don't like, and you're ready for the next step. So sometimes people do get married during this time. Watch out for Mercury retrograde. Okay, it's better to marry with Mercury direct, unless you have retrograde in your chart. But yeah, marriage can definitely happen, but also some lessons regarding love that you need to resolve before meeting the right person. Okay, and it's very often related to identity because Aries is about identity. It's either you're not fully in your full authenticity, so you can't attract the right partner, or you attract people that are not, well, it's always, that's the tricky business. What you attract is something that you still have to learn within yourself. So make sure that you are in your full authenticity, and Saturn can actually reward you with a very deep relationship. But if you're not there yet, you might be attracting someone that doesn't know who they are. Saturn can attract people who are emotionally unavailable, that, are not really open. So you really have to think about what matters for you and what is valuable to you. Okay, so that would be Saturn in the 7th house, Saturn in the 8th house. So this is related to intimacy, for example, not just sexually, but also just opening up. With Saturn here, you might have more trouble opening up to people. Like if you got disappointment with Saturn in the 7th house by someone, when it goes to the 8th house, you maybe feel like you need to shield yourself, like protect yourself. And sometimes that works in opposite direction because people can feel that you're hiding something and they become suspicious of you, okay? Because it's officially ruled by Scorpio, this house. Scorpio is very suspicious. And the funny thing is that they shield themselves and then people become suspicious of them as well. So this is a cycle, okay? 8th house is about cycles, breaking cycles. So it's time to, try to open up, but to the right people. They first have to earn your trust, and then it doesn't hurt to open up, right? Especially in relationships. And then we talk about joint ventures, joint bank accounts. My recommendation is to wait after Saturn is out of the 8th house because there might be some restrictions, disagreements when having that. And for some people, Saturn in the 8th house could even mean like a court case or a divorce. This is not a short divorce or a short court case, okay? This is a long one and it can drag for quite some time because Saturn is really asking for strength. And these are not long-term processes that are going easy like with Jupiter, which is much quicker. So investments as well, money, really have a good strategy because Aries is impulsive, can be quick to decide, and Saturn is gonna hold you back. And if you're making impulsive investments, impulsive decisions, or not double checking your taxes, your papers, all those kind of things, they're all gonna, that's gonna backfire and come back to you. So be careful with that, okay? Double check all your taxes, your papers, your investments that you're making. Like, you don't have to fully avoid them, although it's better to wait, to be honest. But if you can't, do a lot of research. Treat it like a business. Then Saturn will really like it, okay? Yeah. And in some cases can even be like restrictions with in-laws, okay? That there's a lesser relationship with them, or just more difficulty. That would be 8th house. Let's go to the 9th house. So 9th house is the house of traveling, learning, studying, and it might be that you're feeling less drawn to travel. You're just feeling less drawn to look into things, like knowing the truth of the truth of the truth. This is the 9th house. So maybe you're just like, I want to ground myself and I don't want to look too much into it. Or because, you're either going to restrict yourself, or you're going to look into a lot, but you're going to take your time. I'm not going to just go after what someone is saying. I'm going to do my own research. So this placement is teaching you to be skeptical of people, a little bit pessimistic even. And this pessimism makes you do research, and you will become wiser through your own research, okay? It's always good to follow someone for a while, see if their word match their actions. So this is not a time to follow a certain guru, put anyone on a pedestal. I certainly don't want anyone to do that with me. Like, it's so important that everyone's equal. And if people are psychic or they do a certain job, it's because they are a vessel and transmuting these messages to other people. But there's no reason to put anyone on a pedestal, because everyone's human. We're all here to learn lessons, and we are just here to follow our guidance, okay? So be very much aware of that. Yeah, studying might be taking longer. Same as with the 3rd house, like maybe taking a bit longer. There could be some delays in your study. Also with traveling, you might see delays there, or you don't want to travel at all, okay? Teaching, if you're a teacher, you might do a lot more research. You might find that you become more of an authoritative figure. Like, you want people to take you serious. Like, if before you had a more playful approach, you will teach with more authority, okay? Then we go with Saturn in the 10th house. This is very much related to your public image. It's work, it's your bosses. So difficult boss could be that you're working under someone that maybe doesn't match so well with you. Someone that is quite strict. It doesn't have to be someone that actually dislikes you. Very often when you see someone that's very talented, you give them a harder time because you believe in them. This kind of teacher can come up for you, this kind of boss. And even with Saturn in the 10th house, it can make you a boss, and you will have so much more responsibility. So it feels like the world is waiting on your shoulders, bringing you a lot of responsibility. In some cases, Saturn is going to restrict from you working or finding a job. It wants you to realign with yourself, okay? And we're talking about Aries here, so we're talking about identity. So are you on the right path when it comes to work, okay? If you're not on the right path, you're going to be put on hold. Like, are you looking for the right job? Maybe it's an ego death. Maybe you thought, like, I can have any job I want. I'm so great. Like, I just do this thing and they hire me. And Saturn is like, we're going to throw this ego in the garbage. We're going to show you that things don't come unless, the universe is saying so. So, yeah, it's about ego death. It's about working hard to prove yourself. So showing commitment, walk the talk. This is not about, being happy in a job and that's enough. No, you have to show what you're doing. and then people really respect you. It's about slow movement, but lasting impact. So I think that's, that's a really, really nice one. I don't know. My words are a bit sluggish today. Anyways, that would be Saturn in Aries in the 10th house. Let's move on to Saturn in Aries in the 11th house. So 11th house is your friends, your community. Sometimes they call it the lucky house. You know, this is where you can spread things into the world. It's where we are relating with the world and the world relates to us, especially with Aries there in the 11th house. This is where we can do something for the world, what we can contribute. So with Saturn there, you're gonna be a little bit more strict and restrictive of friendships, of communities. You're not just gonna, with Jupiter, you want to enter all communities and be happy and share everything and, indulge and have fun and all these things. Saturn is like, you know what? I want lasting communities, lasting friendships. So I'm gonna filter. So there might be some lessons coming up with friends that you thought were good for you, but maybe are not so good for you. And you're gonna have to figure that out. Most likely that's related to your authenticity because it's Aries there, okay? It's your identity. So are you truthful with your friends? Do they see the real you? If they don't, you might be in the wrong vibration with the people that you match with, okay? So it might be that you're not attracting as many friends, or you're in a colder relationship with them, not so close, because you are working on who you want to be in public, what you want to mean for this world, okay? You could actually become a huge leader if you're running workshops or you're, presenting something in the world, or you're doing big presentations for people, doing charity, these kind of things. You can become a massive leader, but you have to be serious about your commitment because Saturn is like, we don't do half-ass work, okay? You have to really go for it and really show the world that you are 100% capable and willing to take the responsibilities of going after what it is that you want. So if you're going to raise money for a charity, you're going to have to stick it through and do it the honest way, and you will be rewarded with that, okay? So that would be Saturn in the 11th house. Let's move on to Saturn in the 12th house. So the 12th house is kind of hidden, right? And with Aries there in the 12th house, sometimes you have trouble like getting access to your identity. This could be that maybe in past lives you were over-identified with who you were, and now it's time to connect with the divine, and through that connection you will know who you are, okay? So this is a more spiritual aspect, and I see the 12th house as not something bad, like some people see it as something bad. It's just you are continuing some lessons from the past life, And with Saturn there, you get some lessons related to your identity, how you present yourself. You might be feeling a bit lost. So in order to help that, you can shred skin through meditation, spending time in solitude. Volunteering is very, very good with Saturn in the 12th house because you're going to feel so much more whole and complete through service and helping other people, okay? That's really going to help you. You could do some type of hypnosis. Maybe even you're going to work on something behind the scenes that you're not ready to present to the world yet. It's something long-term that you're going to present to the outside world once it's ready. So, but this placement is good for spending time alone, taking responsibility for your karma, your karmic lessons, seeing the world as oneness, because this is the last house where everything is coming together. Responsibility of service. This is also a placement for nurses or doctors or people that do something for the collective that is not based on selfish needs. This is just something you want to give to other people. So this could You know, if you have this in your natal chart, for example, these people have had responsibility in past lifetimes or actually avoided that. So yeah, you're gonna help in a community garden, and you can do, for example, spiritual like Tai Chi, energy, sports are really helpful for 12th house, because 12th house can lose connection with the body. So when Saturn is there, it's good to connect and have some type of discipline that you're gonna do every single week and in your daily routines to make you connect with the divine. Because ultimately, you know, if you like spirituality or not, ultimately we're all connected and we do get energy from above going through the body. So if you don't get enough energy, you need to reconnect and, you know, get all the blocks out. So this is a very spiritual placement, and some people can even get spiritual awakening during Saturn in the 12th house, okay? It doesn't always bring easy things, and it can bring lessons from people from past lives as well, authority figures from past lives that are coming back. But at the same time, that will help you form your identity, okay? So that would be my message for Saturn in all the houses. Thank you so much for watching, for being here, and until next time. Thank you.